What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the No Name Podcast. It is your boy, Rich, Young Rich, however you want to remember my name. But we are back again with another episode. And to start off the video, obviously, the San Francisco 49ers did get eliminated in the Super Bowl in a little bit of a collapse. And obviously, we've seen that, me personally, if we go through that last, third, fourth quarter, the last 30 minutes of that game, I truly do think Kyle Shanahan really held the San Francisco 49ers back. I mean, listen, it was just for me, it should have never been that close, and San Francisco really should have ran away with this one. All right. I mean, there was so many missed opportunities on the offensive side of the ball, right? And then for me personally, when Christian McCaffrey is doing that much damage on offense, yes, he didn't have crazy yards per carry and he wasn't going for 200 yards this game, but when they gave the ball to Christian McCaffrey, they were successfully moving the ball down the field. They were taking their time. They were controlling the time of possession, keeping the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, which is how you beat Patrick Mahomes. You keep the ball out of his hands and limit any opportunities he has to beat you. Your defense stepped up and played phenomenal. You got after him early. You made him feel as uncomfortable as possible. I mean, the secondary was doing a great job on that struggling receiving core that we've seen throughout this year. But I mean, listen, when you go back and you look at it, I can't remember how many times coming out of half, Brock Purdy goes out there and throws the ball 3 times in a row and they go on a 3 and out, And to me, it's just, it's ridiculous, all right? There's no need to prove anything to anybody in that type of situation. You're running the ball successfully. Christian McCaffrey is getting it going. I mean, listen, Christian McCaffrey, 22 carries, 80 yards, 8 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown, right? This dude played phenomenal. He was running hard. He was making the defense pay, and they were running successfully. They were running the ball down the field. The play action was getting set up, and it just made everything easy. All the play calls were working early on, and coming out of half, they did not come out here and run the ball, and that's a lot of blame on Kyle Shanahan. So and if you look, I mean, listen, if it's just the eye test for me with Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan both, right? But if you look at that beginning of the third quarter when they got the ball back, you had just forced Kansas City to go for a 3 and out. They had just punted the ball to you. You had good field position. You had solid field position, right? And now what you're supposed to do is go out there and drive, right? Keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. You go up 17-3. That's a huge different story than in this case, right? But when you go out here and you throw the ball 3 times in a row and then you put yourselves in these third and long situations for San Francisco, it's not the recipe you want to succeed. It's not what you've done all season. It's not what you're known for doing. And, for me, it just looked like Kyle Shanahan panicked, right? It looked like he panicked. It looked like he was trying to do too much instead of sticking with the bread and butter and just running the ball. They were dominating the line of scrimmage. The Chiefs didn't know what hit them. They could not answer this run game. And eventually they started running the ball, right? But they gave Kansas City life and just too much chance, too much energy to really, make this a game. Because I really do think San Francisco should have, in some cases, blown them out, 21-3, 21-10, something like that, because of the way they were playing defensively and offensively running the ball. But when you come out here and give Christian McCaffrey 2 touches in the first 10 minutes of the third quarter, that's not a recipe for success. You go out here, you go on first down, you drop Brock Purdy back and make him throw the ball, and then you're throwing the ball on second down, and then you're in third and long, and then they were getting penalties to make it even longer, and then you're playing behind the sticks. It's not a recipe for success. And when you go out here and you're supposed to be this highly respected head coach, right? And your genius play calling, and you're not sticking to what you're great at, it's just unacceptable, right? And then if you look at Brock Purdy to start the third quarter, to come out a second half, you look at him and you've seen him struggle. You looked at him and he looked scared. He really did, truly in my eyes, look scared. It looked like the moment was too big for him. And you could say whatever you want to say about how the game ended out and how they finished that second half, but he looked scared to start the third quarter. He looked scared being up at half. He looked scared coming out here throwing the ball 3 times every drive and going 3 and out, right? He did not look comfortable. Kyle Shanahan did not look comfortable. And it took Kansas City going down there to score for them to come back and realize they have to run the ball, right? And what this defense was able to do was, remarkable, Patrick Mahomes, 333 yards, 34 for 46, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Travis Kelce, 93 yards, 9 receptions, and Isaiah Pacheco, 18 carries, 59 yards, right? And when you have an offense like that is forced to throw the ball because Isaiah Pacheco did not have a great day. They tried to make him respect it. He had a couple good runs here and there, but for the most part, San Francisco was really dialing in on stopping the run, and they did that. And this San Francisco defense went out there and got 3 sacks, forced 2 turnovers, right? Forced Kansas City 2-6 in the red zone. And when you have these type of numbers defensively, you have to be able to close out games and win. And at this point, it's not on Brock Purdy, all right? Listen, John Elway won a Super Bowl giving the ball to Terrell Davis all game. Terrell Davis, Super Bowl MVP, right? Terrell Davis, that same season, went for 2,000 yards, right? When you have a running back like that and you can dominate the line of scrimmage and you can run the ball, just why go away from it? And it blows my mind because there's so many teams who go away from what they're comfortable with because they get a little uncomfortable, because they want to put them away, because they just, they get a little antsy, they get in their feelings. They try to prove too much. They try to prove what kind of player you have, what kind of coach you are, and it just irritates me every time I got to look at and watch these teams break down mentally and give these teams life. And when you're giving Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs life, it's just unacceptable, right? I mean, listen, when you go out here and you give them too many opportunities and you're not putting them away, you're not giving the dagger, it's just unacceptable, and you're not going to win like that. And we've seen this multiple times with Kyle Shanahan being unable to close out games. And again, I know, yes, I do think Brock Purdy looked a little bit, like I said, uncomfortable, did not look confident, he was missing throws. He was, the Kansas City defense did a great job, right, in the second half, of course. But again, Brock Purdy still went out there, looked scared for a little bit. He looked uncomfortable, was throwing off his back foot, not stepping into things. And I understand the pressure was getting to him a little bit in the second half. But as a QB, when you got to be a closer and then you got to make plays, it's a Super Bowl. Like Shannon Sharp said, it's a Super Bowl. And everyone can clearly tell we trust Christian McCaffrey to put this game away more than we trust Brock Purdy. So why do you put the ball in Brock Purdy's hands continuously 3 plays in a row and go 3 and out, 2 drives in a row, back to back? I just don't understand. And as soon as you give Kansas City life, they took advantage of it. They picked it up. The defense got going. They started making some plays. And then from there, the game got interesting. And obviously, Kansas City wins in OT. But listen, it should have never, ever been that way, right? Even with the overtime rules, the overtime issues that we've heard about, Kyle Shanahan saying that the San Francisco team they did not discuss as a team the overtime rules and the overtime scenarios. And we heard on the opposing side with Kansas City and Andy Reid, they did discuss these conversations. They did have these conversations. They did discuss whether they would take the ball, kick the ball, or whatever they would feel favored, right? And again, that has to go to the head coach, right? That's all on the head coach. You have to make sure your team is on the right page, and you have to be prepared for the moment, right? And it just seems like again and again, Kyle Shanahan just finds ways to lose games. And everybody can say whatever they want, but I'm putting most of the blame on Kyle Shanahan. Yes, Brock Purdy did not play phenomenal in the second half. In that third quarter in particular, right? That third quarter stretch, he did not play great. He looked scared. And as soon as you started running the ball with Christian McCaffrey, you started seeing everything else open up. You started making plays, getting Brandon Ayuk involved. Deebo Samuel involved, right? And then, unfortunately, there was, a handful of injuries on the San Francisco 49ers sideline, right? Shout out to Dre Greenlaw. Obviously, that's a terrible thing to see happen when he tore his Achilles walking off the sideline. When I seen him just the way it happened when he's coming off the sideline, just trying to get in the game, it was, it's crazy, and it's such a tough blow for the Niners, especially in that type of game, that type of scenario, and just, again, the way it happened. But, again, Kansas City was banged up, so I'm not going to put injuries into play, right? Penalties, I feel kind of evened out, right? There was a big penalty for San Francisco late on Trent McDuffie, and then you had a penalty go Kansas City's way late in the game again. So I don't want to hear nothing about the penalties saved any team, right? It was pretty balanced all the way around. But listen, the Kansas City should have never won this game. The Kansas City Chiefs did not deserve to win this game. The defense played great, right? The defense really locked in the third quarter. But this was a great Super Bowl performance on both sides. But again, the San Francisco Niners should have won this game. They outperformed them. They had the lead. They had so many opportunities to put this away and just build on the lead, and they did not take advantage of it, And then Kyle Shanahan finally realized he needs to run the ball, 10 minutes too late, right? And then from there, it just got away from him. And obviously, Patrick Mahomes does what Patrick Mahomes does. And this leads straight into our first point of discussion of the day. Is Brock Purdy a franchise QB, a guy who you can build around, a guy who you could pay and invest to be a part of your offense for the long term, right? Listen, and I understand Brock Purdy's numbers have been phenomenal this year. All right, listen, Brock Purdy this season, 69.4 completion percentage, 4,280 yards, 31-11 touchdown to interception ratio, right? He was in the MVP conversation. You've seen his regular season success with Kyle Shanahan, with Christian McCaffrey, with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, these elite guys, and a great defense, right? You've seen the weapons around him and him being able to perform in this offense against tough opponents, and we've also seen him have his moments where he struggles, right? And when you look at a QB, you want a QB who looks like he's a game changer, right? He's going to elevate your guys. He can get you over the hump, right? And the biggest issue with Brock Purdy, with how he's looked, yes, he looked solid against the Chiefs. There was moments in that third quarter where him and Kyle Shanahan both just looked scared to me personally. Brock Purdy wasn't stepping into his throws. He was letting the pressure get up into his face, and there was a couple throws he could have possibly made, but just had to be like a perfect pass to complete those with how sticky those DBs for Kansas City were being, right? So I don't want to knock it away from him because some of these throws were difficult to make, but those are the throws that a franchise QB, a guy who can get you over the hump, are supposed to make, right? And here's the thing and I understand the whole situation about being, if there's no QB you could really get, or if there's not a draft compensation package to move up to go get an elite QB that doesn't work with you and it takes up way too much value from your team. I understand that argument, right? But when you look at Brock Purdy and he doesn't have that it factor, all right? He doesn't have that it factor. He went out there and played great against the Detroit Lions, and everyone thought this guy was insane, right? The first time all year we've seen him use his legs, right? But again, that's another defense that was not good at all this entire year. That same defense let Baker Mayfield throw for 350 plus yards the week before. Right? So let's not act like the 26th ranked pass defense in the league. So let's not act like Brock Purdy torched a great team, right? And then you've seen him play the Baltimore Ravens when they're at their peak in the regular season. We've seen what happened. We see how many turnovers, bad throws he made, right? And when you're limited by your talent ability, right? It's tough to go out here and say this guy's going to be a franchise QB unless he shows me otherwise. Tom Brady didn't have the greatest arm, wasn't mobile, he couldn't move out the pocket, but he won. He showed you continuously again and again he could break down defenses when he needed to come back. He can, right? Drew Brees, another guy. He didn't have the strongest arm. He was undersized. He was a pocket quarterback, right? He couldn't really move, and you've seen him still have success because he was able to break down defenses. He was very accurate, right? And things like that. And he also got you to the Super Bowl and was won, right? But the thing about Brock Purdy is he has a ceiling, right? I mean, you hope he improves going into next year, but you don't know 100% if Brock Purdy goes. You give Brock Purdy the keys for another 2 years, 2-year extension, if he's going to improve, right? If he just maintains his level and of play and doesn't improve, like this is the ceiling of Brock Purdy. This is it, right? And that's an issue because then you're just setting yourself up with the rest of the team around you has to be so elite to go win these games, right? And again, they did throw away the Super Bowl. I do believe that, right? That muff punt, which again is just an unlucky play, and it just happens to go that way sometimes. You just get, you get the bad luck of the stick, right? So I understand that, right? Again, they should have won this game, but when you go out here and ask if Brock Purdy is a franchise guy, a guy who you want to keep for the face of the franchise, you want him to be the quarterback of the future, I just don't see it, right? I just don't see it. And a lot of it has to do with even when you've seen him play better teams, better opponents, like the Cleveland Browns, and then when they had that 3-game losing streak, right? And even in the playoffs, right? There was 2 or 3 passes every game where it's, why do you make that throw? Like you're trying to fit in a tight window throw like the likes of Josh Allen, like the likes of, Patrick Mahomes and these guys who have these super strong arms, but you're just physically limited to what you're actually able to do, right? So you really have to be game manager-esque, right? And I know people hate that term. To me, again, I think there are tiers to this type of thing and how to play the role and things like that. But he is definitely in a game manager position with his talent, right? So you have to be smart with where you put the ball and get your guys open and break down defenses and things like that, right? And there's just too many throws when I look at him trying to make that I just don't like. You know, like he's trying to throw across his body. He's trying to do too much. His confidence seems to be, when everything's going perfect, his confidence is higher than everybody else. He looks like the most confident guy on the planet, and he tries to do these things. And we've seen Jordan Love make these same mistakes. But Jordan Love, again, a guy who he has the talent to be elite, a top 7 quarterback, just based on his talent and his abilities, God-given abilities, right? Brock Purdy doesn't have that talent to use, right? So when you have that, you have to play a specific way, like Brady did, right? You can't move. You don't have the strongest arm, so you got to play to your strengths and just be smarter than everybody else, right? And I have not seen that from Brock Purdy. And I know everybody wants to talk about how Brock Purdy outplayed Lamar Jackson and quote-unquote Tua Tagovailoa and Josh Allen in the playoffs, right? Josh Allen, me personally, I think had a better game than Brock Purdy against the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Allen also had 2 touchdowns on the ground, 1 in the air, right? He was a workhorse on the ground, and he did solid throwing the ball, right? But again, this, playing better than Tua, sure. I don't think Tua's any good. Tua's no good. So, all right, it's better than Tua. Tua's no bueno. You put any pressure on Tua, you make him look away from his first second read. He's terrible. He's not good, right? And then you start putting that into Lamar Jackson, and I don't think it has to do with Lamar Jackson being worse than Brock Purdy. I think it just has to do with how they're trying to force Lamar Jackson into playing like a pocket passer, not playing to his strengths, right? His greatest tool is the fact that he could run with his feet. Mike Vick's greatest tool was the fact that he could use his feet. He's a dual threat quarterback, right? Unlike anything we've ever seen. So, obviously you have to play to your strengths. But again, if I'm sitting here and looking at Brock Purdy as a game changer, a franchise guy who I'm going to invest a lot of money into, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And again, there's obviously the chance that he can improve. He can improve. But again, it just looks like there are physical limitations to his skill set and to his play, And when you have a physical limitation, it just makes things a whole lot harder. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady had to just be perfect in every other aspect, timing, breaking down defenses, getting his guys open, and things like that. But so we will definitely see. Obviously, listen, we had a full season sample size. He played good in the Super Bowl. Again, I still believe there were moments in that third quarter where he came out and it was pass after pass after pass, and it just did not look good. He looked scared, right? To me personally, he did look scared, and I do think that has a lot to do with Kyle Shanahan's play calling again, right? Because you already know how I feel. They should have ran the ball 40 times to Christian McCaffrey if you have to. That's to me, that's unacceptable. Christian McCaffrey obviously should have been the main focal point of that team. But again, if I'm sitting here and you're trying to convince me Brock Purdy is a franchise guy, me personally, I have not seen enough from Brock Purdy to go out here and say he is the future of the San Francisco 49ers. After winning his 3rd Super Bowl in the last 5 years, Patrick Mahomes has been getting obviously a lot of talk about the GOAT conversation. People are already praising him as the GOAT of the quarterback position and in all of the NFL history, right? And I'm here to say, listen, we are speaking, first of all, way too soon, all right? Listen, everyone wants to talk about Patrick Mahomes' ability to win and him just being great and things like that, right? But listen, Patrick Mahomes, yes, is a phenomenal player. One of the greatest talents at quarterback we've probably ever seen. That is undeniable. But when you're talking about GOAT, the actual GOAT, the greatest of all time, the guy with the clutch gene, the guy who can do it all, it's Tom Brady. And it will be that way for a very long time, right? Listen, I know everybody wants to get on the bandwagon for what the Chiefs are doing, right? But listen, Chiefs 3 in 5 years. The New England Patriots 3 and 4, right? Boom, that's already in his leverage, right? Why didn't Patrick Mahomes win a 4th one? Oh, because Tom Brady went in there in Tampa Bay with a brand new offense, with a brand new system, and then sent them home. Sent that all-pro quarterback, since that all-pro receiver, all-pro tight end, that entire team, Hall of Fame coach, all sent him home and got a poverty franchise who hasn't been there in 20 years. Who took a team that won 5 games the previous year. You go in there and make them Super Bowl champions. Like, let's not discredit what he just did. He went from the AFC, where it has always been a loaded quarterback play, and he went over to the NFC and did the exact same thing, taking out Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl MVP, in the way, right? Okay. Patrick Mahomes, again, I understand what he's done. I understand what he's did, right? Everyone wants to talk. Listen, all of a sudden being a game manager quarterback, now that Patrick Mahomes is doing it, he's been doing it this entire year, became a game manager, right? And has just been playing to win, right? And all of a sudden, he's the greatest thing we've ever seen. He's the greatest thing we've ever seen because now all of a sudden, you trust Patrick Mahomes to game manage, right? Game manage. You trust him to not make any mistakes, to run the ball, to take what's given to him, and to just keep the ball on your hands and let your defense play great defense. But when Tom Brady's doing it, by all means, it's crazy. All hell breaks loose. Tom Brady, you just relies on his defense. If Tom Brady didn't have a great defense, he would have never won as many Super Bowls, right? Listen, Patrick Mahomes came into a team that was already 12-4 year in and year out, winning their division before he even got there. When he took the helm as quarterback, he had a already elite receiver in Tyreek Hill. He had one of the best tight ends in Travis Kelce, right? We had seen these guys. We know who they were. He came into a stacked team. Tom Brady came into a team with no Pro Bowl receiver. Tom Brady came into a team with no All-Pro offensive weapons, right? He went in there and turned Deion Branch into a Super Bowl MVP. Like, are we putting this together here? They went in there, he beat the greatest show on turf, defending MVP Kurt Warner, and sent them home. Hit a game-winning drive, kicks it up the field goal, and boom, the rest is history and the dynasty starts. Like, people just don't understand how great what he really did. You know what I'm saying? Everyone wants to talk about the middle of his years of his career where he didn't get to a Super Bowl in 10 years, right? Listen, Patrick Mahomes still got to play. What we don't know, tomorrow Patrick Mahomes can come out here and next thing you know, boom, he's never back to a fucking Super Bowl. And, you know, he goes the next 13, 14 years, however long he plays in his career and never goes back. Then what are we saying? Everyone's so quick to jump the gun and say, oh my God, this is the guy's the greatest ever. Listen, Tom Brady is the GOAT. Because if he wants to go out there and score 50, he's going to go score 50. Tom Brady is the GOAT because he doesn't need the stats. He doesn't need the outside noise. He's going to go in there. He's going to win games the right way. And when they're winning, he puts it in cruise control. Yes, he takes advantage of that good defense that he has, like other teams, other quarterbacks have done in the past. You know what I'm saying? Russell Wilson with the Legion of Boom. The best defense in the last 10 years, right? The Ravens won a Super Bowl because their defense didn't allow more than 6 points in a damn football game. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then everyone wants to discredit teams. And now Patrick Mahomes has that same type of Super Bowl win, same type of performance. Did not look good majority of the game. Comes out here and game manages, right? Makes a couple throws when it matters. Boom, defense makes a couple good plays. You get a couple turnovers that come your way. And all of a sudden, he's the greatest thing we've ever seen. Like, this stuff needs to stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's out here going against, Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. That's 2 of his Super Bowl wins. It was Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. And then Jalen Hurts, who we just seen him this year. How much of a downfall they just took. How bad they were going downhill, spiraling after they started 10-1. Listen, Tom Brady won a fucking Super Bowl down 28-3 against that season MVP and Kyle Shanahan, 28-3 with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. He comes back 28-3. There's only one person you think you actually have a chance with at QB when you're in a situation like that, and that is Tom Brady. And what does he do? He goes out there with Chris Hogan, Malcolm Mitchell, Julian Edelman, no Rob Gronkowski, right? No Rob Gronkowski. James White and Deion Lewis in the backfield. He's like, come on, bro. These guys are not good players. Deion Lewis goes out, plays 2 years in Tennessee and falls off. James White, same thing, bounces around a little bit, and then he's gone. Chris Hogan got signed a 3-year deal for $10 million a year by the Tennessee Titans after this Super Bowl win and never was heard of again. He came off the Dolphins practice squad, came into New England, and all of a sudden becomes a great player, and there's teams out there willing to pay him $30 million for 3 years. Like, are you telling me that's not because of Tom Brady. He does not elevate the teammates around him. He does not elevate the people around him. Like, come on, bro. Malcolm Mitchell, you don't even know nobody knows who the hell he is. He ain't heard of him since the Super Bowl. He ain't been around. He's gone. He's been out of the league. Like, what this dude was able to do with nothing is just remarkable, right? And the 3-4 years you finally put solid weapons around him from top to bottom, right? You bring in Randy Moss. Boom, this guy goes one of the greatest quarterback seasons we've ever seen. 5,000-yard season, 50 touchdowns, MVP of the league. Unfortunately, they lost to the Tyreek helmet catch, right? Boom. Come back the next year, offense is on fire. Same thing. You fall short, but oh well. It is what it is, right? You had a phenomenal year. You fall short in the AFC Championship game. All right. It happens. It's all good. Okay? It happens. Boom. Randy Moss leaves. Goes a couple years where Julian Edelman is his number one receiver. Right? Yes, you have Gronk. Great tight end, right? But again, you know what I'm saying? Patrick Mahomes has had a good start to his career, right? But if this guy goes out here and never goes back to a Super Bowl, never goes back to an AFC Championship, because we don't know. We sure as hell don't know, all right? So when people start giving him the throne to be the GOAT already, it's unbelievable, all right? It's just you haven't done enough. Just let it play out. All right? Football is different than basketball. Basketball, you can be the best team in the league. You can be the best player in the league, and it'll show. You can see that. You can clearly see who one of the best players in the league is, right? And then you start to bring in the playoff success, right? And listen, Tom Brady, let's not act like Tom Brady kept Patrick Mahomes from winning possibly 2 more Super Bowls. This man could have 5 Super Bowls, but who else? Who else sent him home? Him, twice, right? And was one blown coverage away from being right back in the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay? So we just got to relax with all this stuff. And I mean, the same thing, bro. At the end of his career, people said he was washed up, said he can't throw the ball downfield, said that, you know what I'm saying? He goes into an offense where he's going to be forced to throw the ball with Bruce Arians, and all of a sudden it's not going to work out. Boom. You put him with a all-pro caliber receiver, Mike Evans, a Chris Godwin, all-pro caliber receiver at this time, right? You add Antonio Brown to that mix halfway through the year. You have a great defense. You have Leonard Fournette. You bring in Rob Gronkowski, right? Boom, and all of a sudden this becomes a high-powered offense, an explosive offense, and they go out there and they light the league on fire. You know what I'm saying? And this stuff is just ridiculous, though, because listen, again, Patrick Mahomes can go out here in the next 8-7 years and not do nothing. You know, he could not do nothing. Joe Burrow could be coming in and all these things, but again, and then when you compare who they played, who they went against, right? Patrick Mahomes beat Jalen Hurts, who we've seen the fall off this year. His best game was in the Super Bowl, granted, but again, did not look phenomenal last year. He did not look spectacular last year. He did not look great this year, clearly, as we all seen, right? And then you beat Jimmy Garoppolo, who we already know what happened with him, right? And Brock Purdy, who's everyone's been overlooking and says he's not that guy. So it just needs to stop. We've seen what happened when Tom Brady left New England, right? We've seen what happened when Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith leaves Kansas City, right? He was already up here. Yes, Alex Smith is not Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that, right? But if Kansas City was already elite, was already dominating the league, Andy Reid had lit the world on fire. They had no playoff success. I'll give him that. Patrick Mahomes elevated that team to the next level, okay? But let's not act like he came into a franchise that was no good. Okay, franchise over the years, sure, I'll give you that. Like, you know, in the whole history of things. But when you're talking about a team that was 3-4 years in a row, already had 12-4 seasons, year in and year out. You're at the top of the division, top of the AFC every year. You know, like, let's just not act like he went in there and he made the Chiefs what they are. Again, he took them to a completely another level, right? But you take Tom Brady out of there, they're not Super Bowl champ. Look what just happened. They tried to throw another quarterback in there. Look what happened. Mac Jones, end of his career. It's over with. So when I'm constantly going through Twitter and I'm seeing all these people say all these things, and it's like, man, just let it play out. Just let it go. Let it go. Just wait. Because this man, for all we know, as soon as Kelsey gets old and retires, how many years he got left in one? Right? You could clearly see he's on a downward spiral in his career. He's getting old. He's getting up there with age, right? So then boom, who's going to fill that Kelsey replacement? Who's going to fill the Tyreek Hill replacement, right? We've seen this. We've seen the issues. We've seen the question marks of the future, right? So and when he loses Andy Reid, what's going to happen then? What if, you know what I'm saying? Or the fact that, Tom Brady is a pure pocket passer, right? And as we've seen with many athletes in the past, as you get older, as you start to, age gets on you, you start hitting your 30s, you're hitting 31, you become a parent, you got a family, all these things, and you start to get a little slower. You're incapable of being able to use your feet like you've been, right? Do we trust Patrick Mahomes to sit in the pocket like Tom Brady did his entire career? Do we trust him to play like that if his athletic ability is soon fading away and starts being taken away from him and it's ain't as effective? You know what I'm saying? There's all these question marks about his career and how it will turn out. So it's like, just wait, just put it on hold. If he becomes the greatest of all time, he becomes the greatest of all time. You know what I'm saying? You will respect the career. But you've got to let it play out. And everybody out here is always trying to jump the gun and shot. Nick Wright. If Nick Wright ever sees this, or if somebody wants to clip this and put it on Twitter, TikTok, whatever, Nick Wright, you need to chill. You need to chill out. You need to relax. Stop jumping the gun. All right? We get it. You want to glaze a little bit. But it's too much. Too much, too quick, man. It's done. It's ridiculous. That's all I got to say. All right, but for real, let me know who y'all think is the GOAT. And today we're going to get into some more NBA talk, right? And today we're going to be discussing one of my favorite title contenders, a team who, in the beginning of the year, if you would have said that they were going to be the number 2 team in the West and competing for a possible Western Conference, you would have thought that was, too much of a jump. Like, it wasn't going to fit the timeline, right? They had all these young pieces, and we weren't sure what to expect. Obviously, the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They made the play-in last year. Unfortunately, got eliminated in the play-in. Didn't make it to the actual dance, but they had a great season last year. Missing Chet Holmgren, but you had a great year from J-Dub, right? SGA has finally kind of took over and became that top 5, top 8 player in the NBA. And this year he put himself in discussion to be a top 4 player in the NBA. And I think he's been absolutely phenomenal this year. I've been a big SGA fan since I started watching him play, since he became over and got to OKC. I've been a big fan, and to see him, jump into this MVP caliber player, MVP candidate player, it's been great to see, and with the additions of a rookie, Chet Holmgren, who obviously missed last year due to injury, has come in and gave the team an elite rim protection presence, a great defensive presence, and been able to be their arguably third best player on their team, right? Chet, 16.8 points per game, 7.5 rebounds a game, shooting 39% from the field, from 3-point, right? And then you have J-Dub, 18.9 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4.6 assists, shooting 45.1% from 3. Obviously, does not take as many threes as the rest of the team, but this roster is just so unique and so elite, and they have just so much talent around them. And obviously, the young talent sped up the process. We thought the Oklahoma City Thunder was going to be a team in the next 4 to 5 years, but they completely blew out expectations to become an elite team, right? Obviously, a top 4 offense. A lot of that has to do with the help of SGA. Obviously, 31.1 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, 6.6 assists a game, averaging 2.2 steals a game, and is tied first in the league for steals. So obviously, SGA, we knew he was capable of playing defense, but what he's done this year, really locking in and buying into becoming a great defender, and you've seen that with all the steals he's come up with. And listen, SGA, in my personal opinion, other than Luka and Joel Embiid, just have the deepest, even better than Luka in my personal preference, right, has a deeper bag. I mean, his bag is just so elite. He has so many different ways he can score. He's so smooth when he plays. He plays at his tempo. You want to play fast, he's gonna slow you down and go at his own pace and make a move. And what he's been able to do has been phenomenal. And then you've seen him in the last 2 years. His 3-point shot has started to improve and just keep getting better and better and better and more consistent. And that's great to see from SGA, because obviously 3-point shot is such a big point of today's game. And obviously we know he's a mid-range demon. That's where he loves to do all of his work. And then one of the biggest things I liked from SGA this year alone has been the fact that he's been a remarkable playmaker. Last year his playmaking was okay, but he was, mainly just a scorer. You gave him the ball, you let him facilitate, and he was a lethal scorer. But I definitely think his playmaking has improved this year, and he's allowed the rest of his team to flourish around him. And when you have guys like J-Dub, Chet Holmgren, who can shoot and do those very same things, put the ball on the floor, they could play make, right? J-Dub, obviously we know his playmaking ability, his rebounding ability, right? And his ability to score. He's just a phenomenal player at only year 2 in the NBA. Shout out Santa Clara product, right down the street. And then when you put in all these role players who are playing phenomenal around SGA, right? You got Lou Dort shooting 38.9% from 3. Isaiah Joe, 42.8% from 3. Kendrick Williams, 40% from 3. Carson Wallace, 40.9% from 3. And then you add the addition of Gordon Hayward, a guy who's consistently averaging 17, 5, and 5 over the last 5 years of his career. It's a great team. It's looking very, very scary. And when you look at these teams, we've seen them go head to head with Minnesota, with Denver, with Milwaukee, with the top teams in this league. And they were on a tear for one point where they went on the road, they beat Boston, blew out Denver, and they just kept fire then. And they're definitely an elite team, and a team I would like to see win. Go out there and win. Go get your championship. If I had to pick a team I would root for other than my Los Angeles Lakers, it's got to be Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a young team. They're exciting to watch, fascinating to watch, right? And their addition of getting Gordon Hayward, a guy who can possibly close out games for you, who can go out there and give you 17 and, late crucial buckets, another mid-range demon. He likes to do a lot of his work there, but he's more than capable of shooting the 3. It's great to see when you have all these role players and young talent, just young group come together, and then you would add an addition of a veteran guy who's seen the playoffs for a handful of times in Utah, in Boston, and things like that. So it's been great for this team going forward. But listen, a top 4 offense, a top 3 3-point percentage team in the league, a number 13 defense, number 12 in 3-point percentage allowed, bottom 5 in rebounding allowed, which obviously is one of their weakest points on this team, is the fact that they are fairly undersized compared to a lot of their competitors. And obviously I've seen a lot of games where other teams are able to hang in and make it a close game due to the fact that they can't close out possessions getting rebounds. And obviously, yes, Chet is 7 foot, right? But he is very still small and not built into his frame 100%. So when you look at him, yeah, he's got years to progress, right? Years to progress. Maybe you'll see him become more of an interior threat as his career progresses and he builds into his frame. But we've seen what he's done defensively, which has been remarkable this year. We've seen what he's done, what his ability to score. And it's been great to see this unit come together and click like this. It's unselfish basketball and some of the best basketball I like to watch. And then with SGA at the helm, it's been beautiful this entire year. They play at such a fast pace. They have an explosive, high-powered offense. And then they can hold their own on defense, right? Obviously, again, being undersized, they had opportunities at the deadline to get some pieces, like Dallas went out there and got Dallas Gafford, right? You had talks like that, Chicago maybe trading for Andre Drummond, There was guys on the market to go get another big body, a guy who can give you some size, a guy who can even do all the paint work, the rebounding work while Chet's still out there stretching out the floor. Unfortunately, they did not make that move, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they want to keep this interior, 8-9 guys in their core together, and they want to, let them flourish, let them get a feel for each other. Obviously they have, but you know what I'm saying? Like get an elite feel for each other and develop over the years, and then just continue to add pieces in to add to what they already have. I mean, but what they've done this year has been remarkable. And they definitely got to be one of my favorite teams in the Western Conference. Obviously, they're a young team, so they're not seen as a title contender. Because obviously, when you get to the playoffs, it's a whole different animal, right? You got to see who's going to be ready to play, who's going to go out there and perform. And I do think the guys, Chet Holmgren, SGA, J-Dub, those guys, when the time comes, they will be able to perform, And one key piece I didn't talk about was Josh Giddey. Obviously a lot of his discussion was being about him and his inability to shoot the three, but there's been, this last 3-4 weeks, he's been shooting the three ball a lot better, and there are some nights where he's allowed to stay in the game even more because he's hitting 3 or 4 threes in a game. And when you add Josh Giddey to an offense like this, where now the entire team can shoot, at least make them respect your 3-point shot, like Josh Giddey has been doing of late, I mean, it just makes this team so much more dangerous. It allows Josh Giddey to excel just a little bit more. I mean, we know how remarkable he is playmaking and, great rebounding guard. But again, this is definitely one of my favorite teams, and I like how they match up compared to a lot of these teams in the West, to the Denver Nuggets, obviously the reigning NBA champs. I like how they match up against them. I do think OKC has a more talented roster than Denver Nuggets. Obviously, Denver Nuggets have the big three, the big four that, you have to respect, and they've done it. We've seen what they're capable of in Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and obviously Nikola Jokic. Okay, but again, this is definitely going to be an interesting team to see going forward, and I do expect them to compete. I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of young teams in the past, struggle in the playoffs their first time around, but I do think this is going to be one of those teams that is ready to win now. And I think especially with SGA and his killer mindset, man. I mean, listen, SGA's been on one. And listen, the way this team's fun to watch, and when you see SGA coming off the court and then taking shots at people on Instagram, throwing shade at Golden State Warriors, throwing shade at all these people. I mean, it's just great for the NBA community, because then you got a little bit of, trash talking, got a little bit of beef. Some games mean a little bit more than others. So it's just great for the culture. It's just great for the community, and it's great for the NBA. And again, I just want to start breaking down a couple of, teams in the NBA one by one, go through them, talk about obviously the issues, the struggles, and just get more involved in the NBA stuff right now, NBA content, because obviously that is what is going to be going on right now. And then obviously congrats to SGA being an NBA, all-star starter. Congrats to SGA. Congrats to his OKC team, Oklahoma City Thunder team. With that being said, thank you for watching the video. Let me know what y'all thought in the comments below. And if you're looking at this on TikTok, go click the link in my bio. Go check out my YouTube. Go subscribe. Go like. Go show me some love. And again, appreciate all the support. Thank you.